All right, guys. You're on.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So my name's Colin Parson. This is Chuck McCoy.
Hey.
Hey. Who's ever been to the Arvada Center before? All right. So we've worked with Scott and Pete and the rest of a lot of his other students to work on. This is our third project.
Yeah, this will be our third project.
Yeah. So basically, I work for the gallery division. I'm the curator. Chuck's our graphic designer there, and we worked with you guys on creating digital murals, so kind of like what you see right here, and also taking those elements. Chuck incorporates them on our postcards or invitations for the show, so pass that around. And then we also sometimes make catalogs, and we incorporated that. So actually a fellow student, was it Nick?
Yeah, from the afternoon class.
Nick. So basically what you guys do is propose, Scott will break it down, Mr. O will break it down.
Yep, that's right.
But basically we have 3 different size murals that are needed for each exhibition space. So an 8 foot by 8 foot, an 8 by 12, and I think it's 12 inches or 2 feet by 16 feet, a really long skinny one.
Yep.
He'll have all those measurements, but basically what the purpose of those graphics are is to introduce our patrons to the exhibition. So it needs to be readable. I have the title of the show, I have the dates, and a few logos. But other than that, that is all that goes on those murals. And we try to relate all 3 gallery spaces at the Arvada Center as one unifying kind of brand, series. So the one that you guys are passing around, that's what's going on right now. It's called Art of the State. So it's all about artists from Colorado. So it's all about just Colorado artists. So that's why you kind of see we did a Colorado flag, because that's what's unifying. The summer show is really exciting. It has nothing to do with the Colorado flag. It has to do with op art and the perception and the lines. So basically, I see you have the basic principles and elements up there. Basically, if you broke it down, that's what the main gallery shows about. But in the upper gallery, we have Victor Vassarelli. Anybody know that name? He's kind of the pioneer of op art. Op art means optical art. It was a art movement in the 60s, particularly in the 60s, that was all about optical perception and how you can repeat patterns, colors, texture, lines, and get this kind of 3-dimensional or optical effect. So that whole entire upper gallery, we have works on paper by Victor Vassarelli. So
which actually works out really good, because this is actually your next art history reading.
Oh,
so it works out perfect for you guys.
But I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just some images of his work, and then I'm going to go to the theater gallery, another op artist, and then we'll move to the main gallery, and I'll tell you a little about that show. And then Chuck will kind of chime in and discuss, as a graphic designer, more so. I'm more of the artist and more of the curator. He is the designer, and he'll know exactly kind of answer some questions that you guys might have.
So if he's the good cop, I'm the bad cop.
Yeah. So I just want to reiterate, though, when you guys work on this, try to keep it. We've had very successful. What you guys do is you come to the Arvada Center, you work on the project, and then you'll present your ideas to Chuck and I, and actually our chief operating officer now wants to get involved because he really likes the project. So it's kind of like if you imagine American Idol, but for graphic design. But so yeah, I'll just scroll through. And some of these images you can see are bad. We just took them in the collector's house, so they have reflections. So sometimes it's just more breaking down simple patterns to scroll up like that.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do that. There you
And when you look at these, you're seeing reflections on the glass.
go. Yeah, that's a reflection.
If you're deciding to use one of these images in the actual piece itself and what you're producing, we'll get a better version of this. This is right for.
Yeah, and I think for this project, in the past we've kind of given you guys the option of using the actual artist's pictures in there, but because of the style and because of image rights and stuff like that too, I think we're just using these images as a reference and kind of getting an idea of what the show's going to be about to help you guys with kind of creating your own designs for those images. For what Nick did for the Art of the State, he actually created his own images, and that's kind of where we're leaning towards this too. So we'll just using these as reference, but not actually using the pictures.
It's one of my favorites, so you just see it just repeating of the lines get thicker to these, you start getting that perspective, the space element.
And I think these are silk screens, aren't
Yeah, these are all silk screens, so they're all limited editions. This artist, his original paintings, you know, at MoMA and Guggenheim, he's kind of the man. So this one's interesting. This is actually, it's hard to see, but it's actually a cutout dimensional box, and you have angled light, and so when you walk around, you can kind of see this have a different effect. This one, you start to see the evolution of it's coming out, it's convex.
Can you guys see which program you would use to create some of these programs?
Yeah.
What would you think? Illustrator would be great for this, right? Yeah. Yeah, maybe some of that, both of it.
Yeah. So this is at a collector's house. He just has these hanging, and we basically just really quick, we're shooting them. Look at that one. That's fun. And he even has a little cube. So that's Victor Vasarely. So this is one of my fears of this is we have a lot of patrons from kids to elderly and in between. And I want them to be able to read what they're looking into and it's not supposed to compete against the artwork, it's supposed to support the exhibition. So,
you mean you're talking about their design?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that is the case with this. There's a real design element to these pieces, and it can be kind of easy for you guys to replicate, to try to become a Vasarely, and that's not what you want to do. You don't want to sort of churn out what you think a Vasarely is. You want to, it's kind of, I don't know, you have to be somewhat sophisticated about it, not just try to aid what he's doing in your design. You want to refer to it without copying it. It would be like if we had an exhibition of landscape paintings, you wouldn't want to do a landscape to represent what's going on. You'd want to use something else type related or design related to this. So because this is obviously design oriented, it can make it a little bit tougher to come up with something that can work with this. Because the obvious thing is to do a bunch of grids and patterns and stuff. And you probably would be competing with Vasarely. So there's a sort of a fine line that you have to approach on this.
This is going to be the toughest thing I've been thinking about this project. So this is Yakov Agha. He'll be shown in our theater gallery. He's a still living op artist. He's from Israel. And his work is op, but if you notice, it's different than Vasarely. It has a lot to do with these vertical lines. And what these lines do is, especially as you walk around, again, these are silk screens. As you walk around, you start to see different, it's almost like a holographic effect. You know, it's one color on one side, another color on another side. So again, this one, you can see if you walk around, these shapes would change place, so it's kind of holographic.
And that's because I think these are shaped.
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah, some of them are printed, and then the paper is making little triangles. And so if you're walking directly on this side, it'd be like all blue, and if you're on this side, it'd be all red.
Have you guys seen billboards that are kind of like that before?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have billboards like that too, where it's like that V, where if you're looking at from this direction, you see that. If you're looking at the other direction, you see the other picture.
And so this is the challenge. You have Vasarely, now you have Agha. They're related, but there's definitely their own individual work. But we're trying to brand the whole series, so it can't just be looking just like Vasarely, because then it wouldn't fit with Agha. So that's why I think, I guess that's one of the challenges. It really does. So yeah, simple shapes. This one you start to get that perspective.
It's like it's dipping in the middle.
What was it?
Like it's
How
kind of
is
coming
it?
in. Yeah.
Cool.
So this one he actually has a tower that, this is a miniature maquette of actually a large sculpture he did at Guggenheim. They gave him the whole building. It was cool in the 80s. It's a lot of color.
You guys don't like that, right?
That's a reflection right there. Sorry about that.
And the whole color, the brightness of it is kind of a good thing for a summer exhibition, because we have concerts going on outdoors during the summer, and we get a lot of people coming in from the concerts, and so this can be kind of more of a fun kind of exhibition for people to come in that are not totally used to seeing galleries.
Right. So that's our theater gallery. So the upper gallery has Victor Vasarely, and our theater gallery has Agha. And then, so what we did for the main floor gallery, that's our largest gallery, is I invited artists, both locally and internationally, what we did is we kind of broke down op art. So they're not all op artists, but their work relates to what a lot of the op artists have done. So it's titled Perception, Color, Line, and Pattern. So we basically broke down the elements, and all of these artists, sorry about that. All of these artists have broken down and have those elements incorporated in their artwork. This is a local artist, Rickard. If you notice, so this is a painting, and he meticulously paints each one of these dots to create this. Almost looks like this geometric pattern. Then this is a younger artist, Adam Holloway. So it's just the idea of with value of color. Another local artist, Ted Ream. It's all about how he uses triangles and just different values of that. Again, Adam Holloway. This is a great piece. This is Jaime. He's this is actually inkjet on panel, and then he kind of lets it kind of fade and get distorted a little bit, so it kind of blends in.
How does it print on a pan?
Well, it would be a commercial thing, I bet.
I would think so.
I think he's figured it out. It's cool, but they're only like that big.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're only like that big.
Okay, all right,
So
that makes
it
sense.
was-
Because I'm thinking panel.
No, they're only.
Okay.
And some of these, some of these pieces are 8 feet by 8 feet, while others are like that.
Well, and I think that's stuff done finally, and you guys can do big stuff.
Yeah, we can.
This is Ted Ream again. If you notice, it's just all triangles and the idea of kind of the perspective diving in. This is Jaime again. This is Adam Holloway. So if you notice now, it's not quite as tight. Makes your eyes jump. Again, same thing. Jaime. Ted. So this movement, I have artists that are living and that have passed away, and this artist just passed away. His name is Charlie DeJulio, excuse me, and it's just all about just repeating the same pattern on but that painting is probably 8 feet wide. So this one's not in the show, but it's the same art. So just to kind of show you what he has done. Here's another artist. If you notice here, the boxes are actually dimensional, so his piece actually comes off the wall. So you guys notice in a lot of similarities, a lot of color,
And shapes.
a lot of shapes.
Symmetrical.
Yeah, a lot of incorporation of line. So not only is it paintings, I'm hoping to get this artist, I haven't confirmed this piece yet, but he actually creates, just using colored string, installations, so like a dimensional piece that comes off the corner of the wall or hangs something more like that. So this is one of his pieces, so it looks, there's like a crease right here that comes out. And here's another one that's coming out like a triangle towards you. That one has been in. So this is another of Clark, Rickard. So then also I chose artists who, actually this artist, Angelo De Benedetto, worked mostly in the 50s and 60s, and he just basically really broke down the forms of color. This is a Taos-based artist, Jennifer Lynch. These are about 8 feet big, and these actually are kind of fractally, and it's all ink on panel.
Yeah, no.
Bev Rosen. Just trying to think. Oh, so look at that. That's another 8 foot by 8 foot piece. Here's another dimensional piece. So this actually comes off the wall.
I was wondering if you had to use stuff on there.
This is a New Zealand artist, Sarah Hughes, and look at that. That's maybe a 30-inch by 30-inch painting.
How is that done? Just paint?
That's paint.
Hey,
This is an artist I haven't confirmed yet, but I'm hoping to get. This is the one I was talking about in Durango. It's a fiber-based artist, so she's created this dimensional cube and then just use fiber in the different colors. This purple up here to kind of make it optically look like it's more three-dimensional. Louis Mcginnis, so this is a little more loose in the sense of pattern. Check this out. This is Wendy Hartford. Those are all, that's just all paint, and what she did is actually paints the very top and turns the piece vertical, and it just drips down.
she was at Art of the State too. wasn't
Yeah,
she?
she's an Art of the State. So that's a really unique piece. Another ink on panel, fractal based piece. Again, that's all fiber, that one artist, so that's just fiber that she relayed. Emilio Lobato, this is a lot of collage and paint, so a lot of times he lays, if you notice, there's just different, so many layers, and then he adds the lines on top. It's one of his as well. You start to see he incorporates this diagonal. And this one, look at that. So these are this black, white, just repeating. That piece is probably 7 feet by 7 feet. And your eyes, it'll just make your eyes.
Does it have another kind of line?
So it has a line right there, and it's just individual little things of color.
Oh wow.
So, actually, this artist told me this is how long the Earth has been around, and this is that little line is how long humans have been around.
Oh wow.
That's how he. This is Otto Bach. He used to be the first director at Denver Art Museum. If you notice, more of constructivist, but again, the basic elements.
Oh, no, sorry. You do your password that you.
We have another one by Sarah Hughes. You guys are like this guy's stuff. This is Marty. Basically what he did is this is on panel and he cut out the panel. So this is actually kind of cut out. And then he paints it where it looks way dimensional.
So it's a flat panel.
Yep.
But it's painted to look like it's three-dimensional.
Yeah, so that's just flat. There's nothing.
That's sick.
Pretty neat.
Those are awesome.
And then there's that's a canvas he did, so that's just flat. And that one's really cool to look at too. And then I love how he started getting to, when you think of three-dimensional sculpture, but that is just one piece of wood.
Does he paint both sides?
Yep. And then I love, if you can't really see here, but he actually is able to make it look like it's almost translucent, where you can kind of see through.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So,
It's ridiculous.
and then I didn't show you any Vance Kirklands because I don't have images for those, but Vance Kirkland was an artist who, Colorado artist, yeah, he might be able to look.
I'm pretty sure I can probably do a Google search.
But he basically hung over his paintings in his studio. So he hung over and he did dots, and the dots start bigger and they get smaller. So it's kind of like the Vasarely. So it looks like these giant orbs coming out of the painting.
Oh, that's not. That's not what I want. There we go.
So it's more like type and vibration.
Vibration.
Yep.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
Let's
Is
see.
it like
It's kind of hard to see.
these ones?
It's,
Which one?
it's kind of hard to see those though.
These ones?
No, they're more of the orb. They're more like kind of
They're the orb ones, like these?
Yeah, try.
Oh, that's his blog. Never mind.
I haven't seen my blog. He's dead.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Like he was a Colorado artist.
Yeah, he was a Colorado artist, and as far as sort of big name and nationally known artists from Colorado, he's one of the big names.
Like these?
I can't see anything, so it's okay.
That's all right.
I'll get you images.
Okay.
Very cool work, though. It's hard to. Very cool work, actually. You kind of started the. Was it the art department? Do you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The Department of GU.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Oh yeah, so one like that.
Like this one.
Yeah, it's probably
Oh,
close
that's
to
the
the
federal. So you guys can kind of see that.
So imagine him hanging over. So
He actually had this harness that he'd hang over his paintings. And
do you guys see how this show I just showed you, the perception, color, line, and pattern, they're not all op artists, but they use similar elements and principles as op artists. So that's the challenge for you again, is creating one brand that speaks to all three shows. So
Yeah, and
don't get too focused in on the op, I guess. Focus.
well, and thinking about like what's a common theme when you guys look at all these? What's a common theme with all of these?
Shapes and color.
Colors, right? What else?
Shapes.
Shapes, patterns,
Values.
lines. Okay,
Values.
so thinking about those things, those shapes, those colors, patterns. No, exactly. Color, right? Space.
we
all that stuff.
almost titled it basic elements.
Yeah, and
It's almost a
that's
down
so
there.
thinking about those basic elements, but being that last thing, guys, that we're always worried about is what? Unity.
Make it look pretty.
Okay, unity, how everything fits together. Okay, so those colors, those shapes, lines, patterns, but making them all consistent with that unity. And not trying to basically copy those artists, but to kind of highlight and mimic those artists. Right, guys?
And I think the reason we chose Nick's piece on the art of the state was it was very unified and it was very easy to brand in the sense of once we had it on the graphic murals, it related really well to the invitation, to the postcard, T-shirts. So that's why we chose that. So simple.
Yeah.
Don't get too crazy because I think it could.
well, and on this, the exercise of this, it's not every school that can do something like this where you're going to get a real world application of what you're doing. So in addition to, this is like a lesson, it's a learning kind of a thing, but it's also going to be out there. That you can take people over the ArvadaCtrMurals and say, I did that. And when you're working on this, it's going to be applied in different ways too. We've got the signs that we're doing, we have the invitation, we might be using it in advertising, in print, we'll have to have a little icon.
Oh, for the email. I forgot
Yeah, for
about
the
that.
email.
So you click it, so when you send under your name, it'll just say, like right now it says Art of the State, just really small. You click it, it'll take you to the website.
So when you're thinking of it, you do have to think that this will be applied, it could be in different applications to it. And that's fine because in a certain sense, what that means is the type that you're going to be using, the font, how you're going to be applying it. That's one way of approaching it to keep it somewhat unified. Some people look at something like this, they think, well, I'm going to do a poster for this, and then that's it. And it really isn't just doing like one element of it. You have to think about how it's going to be applied throughout.
So you can see what Nick did for the last one. He had to do the larger mural
So that's 8 foot by 12
by
foot.
12 foot. He had the smaller one, which is I think 1.5 foot
Yeah.
by 12 feet, I think. And then the 8 foot by 8 foot mural. And then with the book, the final book, that was this right here. And then he has this little tiny icon that he had to make. And everything is consistent. How it all works together. How he treated the type, how he treated the images. Everything is treated consistently. Make sense?
And this is kind of how you guys will present it in this format, so we as a staff can try to look at that unity and the consistency. But because the 3 shows, this is all one show. In all 3 galleries, this is just one show, so they're exactly the same. Me personally, I don't know. I could see you guys have unified elements, but maybe each space is just slightly different somehow.
Yeah. And I think that can make sense.
And that's okay too.
So,
And because these are different titled shows, each gallery has a different title for the show, but they're all related because the artwork is somewhat related.
Cool.
And you know, when Nick's his idea that we chose was really different than anybody else's that was presenting, and there were other ones that were really close. That when you guys show your work, it really makes it tough for us because you guys have really been consistently good in how you come across with your ideas and how you present it. So it's kind of a tough thing. And even if you aren't the one who's finally selected, to be used on this, I think it's an amazing assignment. It's as if we're the clients, as if you're like this is your first paying job or something, because we actually have to go through and decide which one we want to use, and we actually have to use it, and we have to look at it, how we're going to use it. So it has to be good enough to be represented in our Madison.
It's real world stuff too, guys. I mean, it's very cool to have them pick your design and have it be that piece that's in our Arvada Center all summer.
and then we are the client, so basically, Nick, we chose this, but there were a few things that we needed adjusted. We just felt were interfering with, like, for example, I remember he incorporated like a city map on part of that. We just thought it was a little too busy, so.
And there are certain mandatories that they say that, we have the title, we have the date on this, and then we also have our sponsor
We have
logos
sponsor
too that we
logos.
always have to deal with.
Well, we'll get you all that stuff too, guys.
Yeah.
As far as parameters and sizes and what it needs to say and stuff like that too.
Any questions? Gabby, come on, you gotta have one question.
How do you get your art into one of those shows?
It's a good question.
Well, some of these guys died.
You have to die. No.
That's my job. Basically, I go out and I kind of know the art scene as well as one can, I feel like. I mean, it's amazing how many artists are out there. And if there's a specific, once we knew we had the Vassarelli and the Gom, we started putting together the main floor gallery show. And so I started working with Kirkland Museum that has a lot of these older artists that worked in that realm. And then I start just researching